Hi guys, Elle here. Today I wanted to make a video and talk about this wonderful thing called pagan prayer beads. I want to sort of go through the different types of prayer beads, not just pagan prayer beads that are around, what they're called, what the amount of beads symbolizes, how it traditionally and historically you hold them, and why you're holding them that way, and what you're actually doing and what it all means. I do want to say that right at the beginning of this, that what we're doing when we're using prayer beads as pagans, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with historic use of them. We're sort of making up our own thing and what works for us. As far as I know, as a Norse pagan, I've never really read anything about an old Nordic shaman, counting the runes or reciting the runes through counting them on beads or anything like that. And that doesn't so much matter to me, and I don't think it matters to most pagans out there. I hope I'm not being presumptuous, unless you're literally trying to be a recreationist pagan. Is that a word? Is that a thing? And do things exactly, or try to do things exactly how they were done, in the past. I even remember going online and looking to buy my own set of pagan prayer beads, maybe finding something that was already dedicated to a goddess or something like that. But I'm looking through and I'm like, these don't have 108 beads. Why do I even need 108 beads? What the fuck does 108 beads mean? And they would have different symbols hanging from them, and they were separated out into different amounts, and I'm like, how are you supposed to use this? I just don't understand. I would read very conflicting information too about what pagan chanting is. It would be like, say a prayer, say a sound, say this, and that didn't resonate with me. And I guess at the time I thought, because I couldn't find something that specifically resonated with me, that it was just something I was just never going to do. I was never going to use. It didn't occur to me that you can create your own thing that works for you, but there's so many different kinds of pagan prayer beads out there to choose from. So many beautiful ones. This is sort of new territory for us. It's kind of a new agey sort of thing, but it does come from, and you can still, there's plenty of modern Hindus and Buddhists and Muslims, there's and Christians even. We have rosaries, but there's all these different historical ways of utilizing prayer beads. Now they're all different. They have different amounts and different invocations and chants and prayers that sort of go along with it. But what we're doing is really sort of making up our own thing, and I love that. It makes it work for you and your specific path just amazingly. But I really did want to make this video and talk about it, because I remember when I first had the inkling to do this sort of a practice, when I was younger and first getting into paganism and things like that, I would go searching through books and on the internet, trying to find how to use prayer beads as a pagan, and I just couldn't find anything. I'm just like, where does this come from? Like, why is this a thing? It just didn't make sense to me. And what I ended up doing was learning how to do it like a Buddhist or a Hindu, and utilizing Sanskrit chants and learning all about that whole world and why this is a thing and whatever. I got into it, and I really enjoyed it, and I found it helpful and magical at the same time. Something wonderful about it. And I still do that, but eventually what I realized was I could turn this into something that actually felt even more personal to me, because I turned it into something that was a part of my own path, my own understanding. So that's kind of what I want to talk about today. That was a long intro. So the reason I actually decided to do this video today was in honor of a little project that I created recently. I think I talked about maybe wanting to do this a while back, and I finally did it. This specific type of prayer beads is something I've been wanting to do for a really, really long time, and I've never done it before. Here's a close-up. Basically, it might be kind of hard to fucking see. basically what it is, a little tassel at the end there, is three sets of the Elder Foot Arc wraps around here. It ended up being 72 rune beads, and onto each one I wood burned the symbol of each rune that I'm going to chant or recite, or Galdr, if you will. And I took the classic, mala design with the tassel. I don't have a guru or a meru bead on there or anything. But yeah, it came out beautiful, and I'm so thrilled with it. And actually at the end of this video, I will show you guys exactly what I do with it on a daily basis, and what I use it for. And so hang tight, I'll do that at the end. But for now, let's talk about prayer beads in general. Okay, so I pulled out, I was planning on showing you guys all of the prayer beads that I actually have, and turns out I have a shit ton. I had no idea that I actually had this many. But what I'll do is I'll show you some examples from my collection, I guess, and show you how I use them. Okay, so ancient India appears to be the very first place where we have like recorded history of people actually using malas or prayer beads. Mala, by the way, is a Sanskrit word. It means garland, so necklace, garland, mala. But it's been used by lots of different cultures and different traditions. We see Tibetans using them. It's from China and Japan and India and Hindu people, and it's used by Islamic Muslims. They're called tasbih or tasbih, I think. Those usually have like 99 beads, and they're reciting things like praise to Allah, glory to Allah, things like that. And even, Christianity, right, with their beautiful rosary beads. This is not a Christian rosary bead, however. That is a pagan prayer bead that resembles a rosary with an ankh on the end. I'll show you guys what I do with that one too. But yeah, there's a long history of mala usage, with different names and different ways of doing things. What I started out with was learning this sort of traditional Indian type that's used by Buddhists and Hindus alike. Now they're used for lots of different things. You can use them for, it's a counting device, right? You use it to count things, but it does not end there. But you can count even lots of different things. You can use it for just counting the breath during meditation. It can simply be a counting of the breath. It can be for reciting chants or mantras, or prayers or invocations. And those things you're even doing for lots of different reasons. You can chant a mantra to promote health, to fulfill desires. It can be prayers like that. You can do it for the sole purpose of transforming consciousness. It can even just be a meditative aid almost. When you chant a simple single word, it's almost like when you bring your attention to your breath, you're holding your attention on this one word or this one phrase, and it's a way of keeping all the other thoughts out. It's like a focusing thing. So there's lots and lots of different reasons to use prayer beads. And you can even put them all into one, it can be multi-purpose prayer bead time. I know that's sort of what it's become for me. It does all those things at once, depending on what I'm trying to do, depending on the chant, But the other thing that sort of happens that I think is so cool is that once you've spent time with your mala, you've done your chanting, you've done your breathing, you end up infusing your energy and your intention into this thing. So it becomes a power or a powerful object, a sacred, charged object, really. So when you are wearing it later on your wrist, or you're wearing it around your neck, or you're wearing it during ritual, whatever you're going to use it or wear it for later, that energy from all that time and all the energy that you put into it is still in there. It comes with you. And it becomes a very powerful personal power object almost for you to use down the line for whatever. And that's one of the really fun sort of side effects, I think, of using prayer beads. So these traditional malas or prayer beads, the Hindu Buddhist sort of ones, are made up of 108 beads. There's a lot of information here. Sorry, I'm trying to be as concise as possible. But yeah, 108 beads. Sometimes they are separated out into like quadrants like this, with this extra. See that orange bead on that one? There's 3 of them. Here's another one up top. Now these are not counted. Sometimes you'll see extra, even what do you call these things, like tassels hanging from different parts. Those beads aren't counted. They're simply to separate out the bead or the necklace into different sections, usually quadrants. And you'll often find this one bead at the bottom. Sometimes it's a bigger bead, sometimes it's shaped differently. This one's pretty much the same. But that is called your guru or your meru bead. Meru means mountain, which metaphorically speaking is kind of cool there, right? It's also called your guru bead. And I actually like to call it that. I like the fucking trucks. I like to call it a guru bead. And the word guru actually has a lot of connotations in our modern society, I think, and I have that inherent kind of reaction to the term actually too. It just brings up all these ideas for me anyway, probably from popular movies and shit, about it being like a cult leader, someone who steals you away and makes you do crazy stupid shit. But the word guru actually means something like going from darkness into light. So your guru would be someone who takes you, as like a master or whatever, be someone who takes you from darkness into light. And this as a bead right there, I love that idea, because that's sort of my, anyway, goal here, you know, to go from a state of darkness into a state of being in the light and awakened. Yeah, but that bead is often it's not counted. Now, in your own way of doing things, I'll show you how I do my things in a little bit. You can do whatever the fuck you want. This could be a place to say a prayer to your matron deity or patron deity or something like that. Throw tradition out the window, guys. It's pagan prayer beads. There's no fucking such thing anyway. So yeah, and then there's often a tassel at the bottom, which in my opinion doesn't really mean much. It's a way of, I guess more when you're wearing it around your neck, but of the energy flowing, keeping that energy flowing. Plus they're really pretty. Sometimes you'll find things like this one has at the bottom, and these little beads down here are just for counting basically every 100 recitations of whatever chant or mantra you're using, and you would just slide it up or down or whatever you're supposed to do with it, to keep track of how many times you've gone around. I lost the ones. This is one of my favorite malas. I can't believe he's still intact. But I lost the counting beads on this, and I decided to, where did I put it? I decided to turn it into a little decoration on my Mary L tarot. So my counting beads are down there now. Yeah. So the number of beads on here, by the way, I keep saying there's 108, and there are 108. Partly there's 108 from what I have read over the years, simply to account for the fact that you might mess up. I've always loved that, because what you're counting with these sort of counter beads at the bottom is every 100 recitations. But you're like, wait, there's 108 beads, you know, to account for messing up and for skipping here and there. It's not a perfect science. I love that they've always known that. And there's also, I think, associations there with, there's 108 names of Shiva or 108 names of God in the Vedic tradition. I wonder which came first, actually, the chicken or the egg there. So some people say that's why there's 108 beads. There's also this interesting theories about like numerological theories where there's like 108, 108, right? So you have 1 is the source energy, God. You have 0, the void, Gununga gap, you know, the nothingness. And then you have 8, meaning eternity, infinity, and all those associations. But yeah, that's just what it is, 108 beads. So the other thing I learned when I was learning the Sanskrit mantras was how to actually hold your beads and how to use your hands and count things and everything the correct way. So what I learned was you hold it in your right hand and you do not use your index finger. In Vedic tradition, the index fingers are representative of the ego. They symbolize ego, and that's what we're trying to overcome here. So you keep it out of the way. And you can use your middle finger or your ring finger. I've seen this both ways. Both are perfectly correct, I believe. Traditionally speaking, I don't give a fuck what I do, what anybody does, really. That's not so much the point. You know, I think if you read somewhere, don't use your index finger without knowing why you're doing it, it sort of loses all power anyway. For me, it's a symbolic action of keeping the ego out of it. So that's why I've retained that one. And then what you do is you pull the beads towards you as they rest on your middle finger or your ring finger or whatever with your thumb. And that's it. Let me close up a little bit here if you guys can see. Maybe like that. So you slide each bead towards you. Now, often on high quality malas, you saw mine slides along the string underneath as I go. In a higher quality mala, they would be tied. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's a little knot in between each bead. This is not a traditional mala. This is one of my pagan prayer beads. But yeah, there's knots in there because you won't be sliding along the string, and eventually they'll break because you're constantly rubbing the string behind everything. So on really nice ones, they'll usually be knotted in between. Even when I made my rune prayer beads that I'll whip out again in a little bit and show you, I have just gotten so used to not having the knots in between. It creates a really big space. Can you see that? As it stretches out and expands, and it sort of lays over my finger really nicely, and I've gotten used to moving the beads like that. So the knotted ones that are actually better quality are a little bit more uncomfortable for me because I'm used to the cheap ones. How great is that? So I actually prefer them like that. I like sliding them along. And of course what does happen is eventually most of them kind of fall apart. A lot of them I've had for a long time, but some of the cheaper ones, like these sandalwood ones, eventually just fall apart and excuse me, they eventually fall apart. And I actually even created a little ritual for getting rid of them. I'll take the beads that have been charged and empowered with whatever energy of whatever mantra I've been using with it. And I'll return it to the earth. I'll bury it. Normally even I'll hang on to like maybe a handful of the beads or something to use in spellcraft or something like that later, because they're already infused with intention. They're already power beads, if you will. And I'll use them in different ways. I have this one, actually. It was the very first prayer beads I made, and it was a strand of 108 because that's what I was doing at the time. But I found this amazing bead. I should have grabbed it to show you guys, but whatever. It has a picture of a raven painted on one side, and on the other side there's another raven. So as a Norse pagan, this was Hugin and Moonin for me, which was really cool. But when the beads fell apart, I decided to hang on to that guy because I had already recited like 1,000,000 prayers to Odin and infused this really cool intention into this bead, and now I carry it around in a little medicine pouch, and it's very protective and empowering for me. So there's an idea for you guys. They do fall apart, hang on to it. I think it's cool to play with later. So what I started out with basically was using things like this and using Sanskrit chants. I learned a lot about Sanskrit. I think the Sanskrit alphabet and the Sanskrit language is incredibly powerful. I think there's a lot of inherent power in alphabets in general. Hence my fascination with the runes and Hebrew and the Greek alphabet, especially these old alphabets, are just like what the runes are. You know, they're the energies of everything, and their sounds, and we use them to speak. Like it's great. I'm gonna do a whole video. I want to talk about the runes on how they're associated with the tarot. The tarot is an alphabet too, for me anyway. It's like an illustrated alphabet. It has the same number. That's why there's all these Hebrew and runic associations with them, because they're talking about the same thing. How the hell did I get on that? Oh, Sanskrit mantras. So yeah, I started with a few basic ones. I got myself some books, by the way, too. You know, sacred Sanskrit words, so I could help understand what the fuck I was saying and would know what it meant. This is one of my favorite books. This is called Healing Mantras by Thomas Ashley Farrand. And it's just a book of mantras explained. And he tells you, oh, there's a lot of history in here too, but he goes, here's one, Om Shanti Om, very simple one. But he goes through each sort of seed syllable and what everything means in Sanskrit. Fascinating, wonderful, powerful stuff. So some of the ones that I started with were, you know, that Om Mani Padme Hum, which the mantra that's associated with Avalokiteshvara, or the Buddha of compassion, of which the Dalai Lama is a reincarnation or an incarnation of, and it can even have so many different meanings. You know, it sort of translates to I bow to the jewel in the lotus of the heart, which is beautiful in itself. I even think there's this combination of masculine and feminine, where the masculine is the jewel and the lotus is the feminine, and we're combining the two. What's another one I started out with? Om Namah Shivaya, the very, very popular mantra. So almost more literally translates to greetings to Shiva. But I always like to think of it more as I bow to, because Shiva can represent, you know, your inner self at the same time. So it'd be more like I bow to my inner self. Yeah, very good. This is the one, this prayer bead, or these prayer beads, that I only do one specific mantra with, and it is this one. I think I mentioned it once before. I love the way it sounds. It just sounds so long and beautiful, but it's just a bunch of Sanskrit seed syllables. It's Om, Aim, Rim, Shrim, Klim, Sau, Sat, Chid, Ekam, Brahma. And basically, you know, I have meanings for every single one I know, but on the whole, it's a mantra for spiritual insight. I did try to wear this one as a necklace once when I went to work. I work as a hairstylist, and I cannot not recommend this highly enough. I dumped my tassels, got dumped into some hair dye, like brown shit all over it. But yeah, it's nice to wear out on your wrist or whatever as a necklace, because you're bringing that with you, like I said, and that can be so empowering during the day. I know, especially us spiritual folk, right? Every single thing, at least for me anyway, that I put on my body, especially jewelry wise, it means something to me. You know, if I wear amber, that symbolizes something to me. If I wear something with a crystal, let's see what else I have on. My Flower of Life necklace, or a Thor's hammer, or something like that. Like, I'm bringing that. It's reminding me to still focus there throughout my everyday life, and I love that. Same with tattoos, right? even clothes, you know, when we put on an outfit in the morning, it's like we're trying to say something to ourselves. I remember as a kid always wanting to dress like super tough because I had to feel, or I wanted to feel this strength inside. So I'd put on my leather jacket, I'd put on my big boots, and instantly empowering. It was like an instant reminder to be courageous, to be a warrior in everyday life. Yeah. What was some of the other ones I started out with? Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. You can start, you know, I would even have it written out in front of me at first until I sort of memorized the whole thing, even written out phonetically so I was pronouncing it correctly. But eventually you really don't need that, but you're repeating them lots and lots of times so they sink in, you memorize them real quick. Om Gam Ganapatiye Namaha. Things like that, you know. Om Saraswatiye Namaha. Om Aim Rim Shrim Klim Sao Sat Chid Ekam Brahma. And so on and so forth. Yeah, powerful. Each sort of chant has its own intention behind it. You're saying each one for a specific reason. And the more you do it, you're sitting in meditation, your energy, everything, it gets in here. It's magic. So even though at the time I was chanting things in Sanskrit, a language that I didn't super connect with at the time on a deep level, I think that's changed now. I really have a special relationship with Sanskrit now. But there's something just, I don't know, just cool about chanting things in another language. There is this idea out there that I've even heard it sort of when people talk about how you go into church and they will recite things from the Bible in, I don't know, Latin or Aramaic or whatever, and the rest of the congregation does not speak that language. It's like, I've heard people from the other side of this argument be like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't understand what the fuck you're saying, so why are you saying this in another language? Now, the other side of that argument would be because it's different. You know, you go into a church or a sacred place and you leave the outside world behind. You're in a sacred space. It's different. So, you know, speaking in another language at the same time takes you out of the everyday. So I really do. I enjoy using another language, whether it's Old Norse for me too, because I feel that connection to it. You know, I'll learn what the words mean, but just saying them in another language can be very powerful because it really does take you out of the everyday, out of the language that normally comes out of your mouth. This is something different. This is something sacred. This is something special and different. And I think it can be powerful in that way. So when I decided I wanted to turn this into more of a, I don't want to say personalized practice, because the Sanskrit chanting is still a huge part of my practice. I really enjoy that. But at the same time, I wanted to do something that was even more personal for me. And the runes had become just everything to me. My Norse pagan path is really where I just feel so at home. So I started chanting, doing Galdr with these beads, or chanting the runes, you know? So what I realized was I could go through the entire Elder Fifth Arc 4 times, and then have 12 beads left over, which I decided I've used different mantras, and different prayers even. I would do the last 12 with, say, you know, a Sanskrit prayer or an invocation or a prayer to Odin, or to Freya, or, you know, whatever god of the Norse pantheon I felt like needed to be invoked, that I wanted to connect with. And I've never been much of a writer of things like that. Even for ritual and spell work, I'm not a good writer with things like that. I love other people's prayers that they've come up with. They rhyme, they sound special. There's a few sort of old Anglo-Saxon things that I like to use, a few things in Icelandic and Old Norse from the Eddas especially, that I've sort of taken that are really old and ancient. I just leave them as they are and recite them. But for the most part, the prayers and invocations that I use have come from books and come from other places. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I like that. Sometimes I'll mix up words and tweak things a little bit. But basically, I steal shit from other people. But it works. But yeah, I started doing more pagan things with my traditional malas. Go for it. It works. It's so much fun. And I still do this. Yeah, I think pagan prayer beads in general has become a bit of a mix of tradition and a mix of modern new age-ness. I love when I make up words. But yeah, it's become a blend of new and old. You know, we're doing our own thing, but it comes from an ancient source. You know, but I have had a number of, I guess more specifically, like pagan prayer beads over the years. Let's start with this one. It looks very much like a rosary, and I was very attracted to it for two reasons. I think I found this one on Etsy. First of all, because it has an ankh, and I really enjoy studying Egyptian mythology and like Egyptian paganism and Egyptian practice, Egyptian initiation. Their mystery schools. Oh my god, so good. So there's an ankh on here, and then it has, what is this, 5 beads down here, and then 24 from here to here. It has 48. It has 24 on this side and 24 on this side. So I was like, shit, that's cool. I can use this for runes. And then what I would do with the rest of these was mix it up. This would usually be, I've changed it so many times. And that's totally something you can do, by the way. When I talk about infusing your energy into one of these things, traditionally they say that you should switch out your malas when you're going to do a different mantra. So you have like one mantra for each mala. And yeah, I think that's great if that's what you want to do. I know I can't always afford to get a brand new mala every time I want to mix up my chant. So I don't think there's anything wrong with going over and over it. There is a tradition that goes something to the effect of you recite, you do your chants every single day for about 20 days, and at that point it's like it's official. It's been empowered with those words, with that intention, with that energy. And there might be some truth to that. I don't know if it has to be exactly 20 days, but I think that there's a certain amount of time that you can literally like feel your necklace, your beads get whoosh, empowered. It's cool. So for these 5 beads down here, I would either do a prayer to a different god or goddess of my pantheon, or all to Odin, or even just the names. This is the kind of stuff, though, as a pagan, that you're gonna have to figure out for yourself exactly what you want to do. On a regular rosary, like a Catholic rosary, they have defined things. It's like you say 3 Hail Marys, you say 4, I'm totally not getting this accurate, don't quote me here, like 3 Our Fathers, the Fatima prayer, and so on and so forth. And they're fairly long, so you can do an entire paragraph worth of a prayer. And you'll eventually memorize it. At first, if you have to use a book, who gives a shit? And things like that, instead of shorter chants or shorter mantras. You can even just devote these to a breath, I think that there is something cool about sort of splitting it up and mixing it up. It brings your attention, I think, in a way back to what you're doing, instead of just reciting the same thing. You can almost even sometimes, I know I've done this, get lost in the mantra. You get so used to it and to saying it over and over that your mind can still wander while you're actually physically saying these things. It's crazy. The mind will do whatever it can to run away from you, it feels like, right? And you don't have to say these things aloud either. I know there's been plenty of times where there's other people around or in the next room, or I'm away on vacation and my dad's in the next room, whatever. And I don't want him to hear me, for whatever reason. You can say these things silently. You can just count your breaths. Yeah, I'll often just do them in my head, even my rune rounds. Sometimes it's, instead of creeping people out, like it's You whisper it, or you just do it in your head. I even have a little prayer to Allfather that I especially like to use. I use this one a lot. It goes like this. Allfather, thine unlimited, all-healing power is in me. Manifest thy light through the darkness of my ignorance. Me! It's kind of a quickie, but I enjoy that one. I really like it. It speaks to me. Longer prayers. God, I haven't used this one in a really long time, you guys. This was actually literally, I think, the first prayer beads that I got that were specifically for a pagan prayer. They're not 108 beads. And I don't even know if this was designed to actually be a prayer beads in any way, shape, or form. I found it at like a garage sale or something like that. But what this guy has is just like my Ankh pseudo rosary had, was 48 beads up here, and then it is followed by 3 like cube beads, and then 13 beads here. 13, how cool is that? And then another 3 like cube shaped beads. I haven't used this guy in a long time. I'm gonna start using him again. He really is. It's so cool and so special. I absolutely adore it. But I dubbed these guys my Bragi beads because what I initially used it for, this would have been great for like some kind of goddess invocation considering the 13 beads here, but that's not what I used it for. I would do 2 rune rows, basically recite the fourth arc all the way through, beginning to end twice. Which fit perfectly. And then the 3 cube beads I devoted to Odin and his threefold nature. So it would be Odin, Vili, Ve, or Odin, Honir, Lother. And then the 13 here would be 13 of the same exact prayer or invocation to Bragi. Now, actually, let me read it to you. I used to have this thing memorized, but I don't anymore. Oh, it's all coming back to me. It would be, husband of Idun, I hail you. Your tongue is carved with runes of power, and your mouth has become a gateway of living inspiration. Words of beauty and fate-weaving force pour from your lips like pearls from an overflowing treasure hoard. It's all coming back. Son of Gunloth, son of Odin, I praise your poetic skill. Hail, Bragi. The rest of the prayer goes, hail, Bragi, I raise this horn to you, but I would leave that part out because I was not drinking from a horn. That actually, I have it right here, actually. That specific prayer comes from this book, Exploring the Northern Tradition by Galina Kraskova. Wonderful, wonderful book. If you're looking for prayers for your Norse paganism, for your Norse pantheon, she's got prayers to like every single god in there, and they are beautiful like that. Isn't that beautiful? What did I say? Your rune with your tongue carved with runes of power. Like, oh my god, I love. But anyway, what that was all about for me really was, Bragi is the god of like poetry and poetic inspiration, right? But the way I look at him is he's sort of an elevated Loki. And Loki, for me, represents all of us lowly humans down here, ego-driven and very material, this sort of thing. And Bragi, or the state of being one with Bragi, would be an elevated and enlightened state. And then going through the runes is just a way of getting in touch with the energy of the universe and bringing it into myself and connecting with that. And then Odin creating, getting in touch with the all-pervasive consciousness and oneness through his threefold nature, Allfather. This is another one that I have had for a really long time. This one's really cool because it is all crystals. Some of mine are wood, some are sandalwood, all different kinds of things. Some are seeds, but the Bragi beads are crystal, and this guy is too. I call this my Freya prayer beads. Even though there's little crystals and little beads in between each of the big ones, I just use the big ones for counting. Otherwise, it gets a little confusing. But yeah, I would just do invocations or prayers to Freya, or even just her friggin' name. You can just take the name of your god or goddess, or different names, If it's a trinity, a threefold nature goddess, you can do each, the three names for each bead or something like that. There really is no rules when it comes to pagan prayer beads. So I do have a few malas or prayer beads that I use for a specific purpose and for a specific chant only. These are my alu beads. And what I do with these guys is I do alu, the sacred. It is sacred. The ancient sort of charm for protection. And I'll go alu ula, and that'll be one. And then go through the whole thing. Alu ula. So it's like 2 breaths actually for each one. Because I'll normally take a breath in between. And that's just because I said so. So I hope this has given you guys some ideas on how you can turn, prayer beads that may be from another culture that aren't so familiar to you into your own thing, because why not? And if that is uncomfortable for you, you could always take up learning Sanskrit mantras, because I think they're wonderful in general, even if that is not your background, But also, I hope I've given you some ideas on how you can actually use pagan prayer beads. There are so many beautiful, beautiful ones out there on Etsy. Some of them are already dedicated to a specific god or goddess and have, totems or something like that on it. I see all these beautiful ones dedicated to the Morrigan from Celtic tradition. They'll have skulls on it, bird skulls, and things that are sacred to the Morrigan. And usually separated out into interesting numbers that sort of relate to her as well. There'll be trinities all over the place and stuff like that. But from then, it's up to you how you're going to use it. I guess you don't even have to use it as a counting device, but I think if you're getting prayer beads, that's what it's for. So you recite things a certain amount of time and put that power into your prayer beads. It's really fun. It's really cool. Okay, here we go. Back to my prayer beads, my runic mala, if you will. I also can't recommend highly enough creating your own, not just runic prayer beads, but any prayer beads in general. This is the second one I've ever made, the only runic one I ever made. I had made just one other 108 bead mala before that has since fallen apart, and because I did not knot this, because I am not like in between the beads, not off each one, it's not going to last forever, and that's okay. It's going to slide across this center string and it will eventually break. I'll probably put it back together, or shit, it might just be an exercise in materialism. Let it go. Can always make another one. But I really did want to make this myself as opposed to buying something that someone else made, because the act in itself of carving the runes, or in this case wood burning the runes, is a sacred ritual. That's a sacred act in itself. The staves and the shape of the staves are so important when it comes to the runes, that I really, really wanted it to be something this personal. It already has that symbol on it. It already is infused with that energy to an extent, So before I start, I just want to let you guys know I am going to make another video on Galdr and different ways of practicing Norse paganism, at least the things that I do. So what this is, technically, is a form of Galdr, which is speaking the runes or chanting the runes or singing the runes. And yeah, basically this is how I do it. I have, like I said, I have the 3 futharks up here, like 3 sets of 24. So I have devoted the first one to just saying the rune. I have devoted the first and the last one. I do that. It'll be Feyu. Take a breath. The next one. This is not a quick thing. Normally when you're doing like Sanskrit chants and mantras like that, you are saying them very quickly usually. You can do it however the hell you want, but it becomes more like this, like Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. If you've ever listened to people doing Sanskrit mantras on tape or on YouTube or anything, that they tend to sort of get like that. That is not at all how I do this. You totally can, not to say anybody's wrong. You can go Feyu Urus, Thursat, you know, on and on. But I really like to connect with that energy, to feel that energy. That's what I'll go through like several times too. But anyway, the first and last one are just going through the 5th arc, saying the name of the rune as I know it. There's even different names out there for the runes. But anyway, I've devoted this second part to a little bit more of a Galdr thing, which would be taking the sound associated with each rune. So for the first one, Fehu, it becomes F. It's the F sound. So instead of saying Fehu when I get here, it's what I do. This doesn't come from anywhere, but it's Fe, Fi, Fi, Fo, Fu. Now, in this book, this is an Edred Thorson book, the Handbook of Rune Magic. It's a wonderful book, and he actually gives, it's one of the few rune books out there where he gives an example of Galdr. Like, why am I even trying to show this to you? I don't know if it's going to show up, but this is what? Ingwaz, yes. And, you know, he gives an example of what to say for Galdr. So it's Ingwaz, ing, ang, ing, eng, ong, eng, ing, ang, and he goes backwards. And then ing at the end. So you could do whatever the hell you want. Usually, in most Galdr that I've seen people do, it's taking the seed sound, in this case the f sound, and putting a vowel before or after. I do it in this way, A, E, I, O, U, because that's how I learn the vowels. I don't say sometimes why though. So it's already a learned thing. I don't have to stop or at least when I was learning it, I didn't have to stop and think, which vowel am I going to say next? I would just go A, E, I, O, U. And then if it is a rune that has a vowel sound associated with it, like Ansus, right? It's the ah sound that we're getting at. I still do the same thing. And you could mix it up and throw a letter in there if you want, but that would be like ah, a, ah, e, ah, I, ah, oh, ah, ooh. I don't normally giggle in between, but I must sound like a crazy person. So that's pretty much what it is. Normally I would do this at my altar, usually in the morning, sometimes at night, and then definitely if I'm doing any sort of ascending or spellcraft or ritual, this is definitely a way that I like to get centered and a way that I like to invoke the energies of everything, the energies of the runes. All right, give me a second. I'm just going to center myself so I don't giggle through this. And I'm going to go through real quick so you can hear kind of what it sounds like. And I'm only doing this because I love when other people have done this. I love hearing other people do their Galdr. It gives me ideas for how I might want to practice things. And it's also just nice to see that I am not alone in the things that I like to do and the way that I like to practice. Yeah, I found that so incredibly helpful, especially on YouTube. Seeing how other people sort of go about things. So yeah, hang on. So I'm just gonna sit here in sort of Indian style. So that's how I'll normally sit at my altar. That you can't see what I'm doing down here, huh? Maybe I should redo the camera. Fuck it, you get the idea. I'm gonna tell you what I'm doing. I have it draping down. It's usually sort of hitting the floor on my right hand, pointer finger out of the way. And then I'm pulling each one towards me with my thumb as I say it. Right at the beginning, I kind of pull it back. Again, do whatever you want. Canos, Hagalaos. Now these Isa Perthrow Algis Tewas Berkana Ewas Manas Lagus Ingwas the gas Othala Fei Fi Fi Fo Fu Wa We We Wo Woo They Thi Thai Tho Thu I Ray, Re, Rai, Ro, Ru, K, Ki, Kai, Ko, Ku, Gay, Gi, Gai, Go, Gu, Way, We, Why, Wo, Woo, Hi, He, Hi, Ho, Who, Nay, Ni, yo, you. Yay, ye, yai, yo, you. A, yo, you. Pay, pee, pie, po, poo. Zay, zee, zai, zo, zoo. Say, see, sai, so, sue. Tay, tea, tie, cho, two. Baby, bye, bo, boo. A, I, ew, ew. May, me, my, mo, moo. Lay, lee, lie, lo, loo. Inga, ingi, ingo, ingo. Day, dee, die, do, do. Away, oh, we, oh, I, oh. And then I won't go through again, but do the last fifth arc again. I feel so centered, and I feel this vibration, especially right in my heart center, that Mana's rune. When I went through that ma, me, holy shit, that just awakened something. Even though I knew I was being watched, it was still powerful. Galdr is powerful. Centering, empowering, all those things. So yeah, I will do another video about Galdr and different ways you can use it. The other way I use Galdr like this is in bind rune spells and activations and things like that. And that'll be a fun video, I think. All right, I can't even talk right now. I'm like so zen. So I'm gonna let you guys go, and I will see you next time. Mwah. Bye guys, thanks for watching.